Good morning, everyone. Today, I want to talk about an experience that I lived vicariously through a group of friends that over the last few weeks were able to stay. They had the opportunity to stay and live with the Hadza tribe of northern Tanzania. The Hadza are considered one of the last hunter-gatherer tribes in Africa, with approximately 1,300 members. And these friends of mine, they, again, lived with them, they hunted with them, they ate with them, and basically just had the opportunity to see what their life is like. And a couple of things, as a hunter-gatherer society, these people have no domesticated animals. Okay, so they don't grow or store their own food. They literally do not know where their food's going to come from day to day. Obviously, they have an idea, right? So they know how to hunt, they know how to forage. They literally survive by hunting their food with handmade bows and arrows, and they forage for all of their edible plants. Their diet primarily consists of meat, fat, and honey. I mean, that's literally what they eat: meat, fat, and honey. They live in temporary shelters, basically dried grass and branches, and they really own few possessions aside from the things that they create to hunt and to cook. Now, studies on contemporary hunter-gatherer populations, this would be, people like the Maasai, the Inuit, the Katavans, the Hadza. All of these tribes and all of these people, they consistently show that without exception, they consume both animals and plants. And they go to great lengths actually to obtain nutrients from animal foods because they know that those are the most nutritious. They've figured this out over thousands of years. We study these populations because they're really the closest example of what our ancestors ate. And they help us to really understand what a human species appropriate diet really is. Now, interestingly, an ancestral population following a completely vegetarian or vegan diet has never been discovered. That's not to say that, if you're a vegetarian or vegan, that's wrong, but I just want you to understand that actually has never been discovered in an ancestral population, which means that this is typically something that we bring up as more of a modern recommendation, but not something that our ancestors did. Now, if we're interested in optimizing human health, it's important to study and observe those humans who demonstrate optimal health, right? If you want to learn how to be healthy, you don't want to study people that are sick. Maybe it's helpful to study them because you can learn what not to do. But certainly you want to follow the same principles and guidelines that healthy people do. And that's why we spend time studying these people. Now, for example, the Hadza, even though they primarily consume red meat, they have 80% lower incidence of atherosclerosis compared to humans in the US. Diabetes is non-existent. Osteoporosis is non-existent. In fact, 9 out of 10 tribe members aged 40 to 94 had completely clean arteries and no signs of heart disease. What's really important about that number right there, 40 to 94, which should give you an indication that yes, they have people that are in the 80s and in the 90s, even though they're completely, living off the land in the wild, they have no signs of heart disease. And when we put all the evidence together of an ancestral diet and the observations and studies of modern day hunter-gatherers, we basically see the following themes. Number one, meat and other animal products have been part of our diet for at least 2.5 million years. Number two, all ancestral human populations who have been studied consume both plants and animals. And then number three, human beings can survive on a wide variety of foods and macronutrient ratios, protein, carbs, and fats, within the general template of plants and animals. Now, what's my point here? Well, whether we look through the lens of evolutionary biology, anthropology, or archaeology, we find that it's possible for humans to thrive on a variety of food combinations and macronutrient ratios within the basic template of whole, unprocessed animal and plant foods. The key words there are whole, unprocessed, meaning that the food is completely intact and unadulterated when consumed. Now, the Hadza, they learn what healthy foods are basically generation to generation, right? We're talking over 50,000 years of coevolution and living within their environment. Humans, on the other hand, modern humans living in a modern society, learn what healthy foods are from clickbait online marketers, or from food companies that really ultimately control search engine algorithms and ultimately the narrative of what healthy food is. The good news here, though, is that the amount of animal versus plant foods that you consume really does come down to preference, your need, and your goals. For most people, the middle ground is what appears to work best. And what I mean by that is 35 to 50% of your calories should come from animals, 50 to 65% of your calories from plants. That's pretty much it. The second interesting part of their trip was the observation of things like asking them about depression, asking them about anxiety, asking them about back pain. And one of my friends who's also a chiropractor, he spent some time asking specifically their older population about back pain. And when asked how often that they experience back pain, he said it was funny because the majority of these tribe members literally had no understanding of the question. Like they would ask him, what do you mean? Like pain from falling out of a tree or falling, on a rock? Like they didn't understand that people here in the US experience pain day to day, even though they didn't have an injury. And he specifically, again, asked their elderly about bodily pain, and many of them didn't have it. The only time that they experienced pain was when they had an old injury, right? If they had a damaged elbow or a damaged knee, something like that. And now this is likely because of the amount of movement that they get in the day. We know that, motion is lotion for your joints. And most of us simply do not move as much as we need to in a day. And I'm not talking about exercise. I'm literally just talking about walking, about getting movement. Here in the US, of course, we talk about how we should get 10,000 steps per day. Well, the average Hadza tribe member gets between 15 and 20,000 steps per day. So you can imagine, right, the complete difference in terms of how much activity we're getting. I would also argue that that's probably one of the main reasons why they don't experience depression or anxiety. We fully know that movement helps to improve brain function, which therefore helps us with our energy levels and also contributes to things like depression and anxiety. And when this same friend asked them about depression, again, they were confused. They didn't understand the concept of depression, which is pretty interesting. Finally, when asked how to raise good children, he said that mothers would basically say, treat them like adults. He said that he's never seen such peaceful children in an environment. He said there was no crazy energy. People weren't running around screaming, smashing things. The things that you would typically see American kiddos do. He said that they didn't need screens to keep them busy. They didn't complain about the food that they were given. They didn't need a special rawhide blanket to take a nap. They didn't need a plastic contraption to strap them in for safety. He said that they largely just tagged around and hung around with the adults, and they did their own thing, when they felt like it. He also said that he was overwhelmed with the urge to not step in for safety when he would see babies crawl next to fires or grab sharp objects, or kiddos that would run into the bush by themselves. And basically nobody else seemed to care. They would just kind of go about their business. So pretty interesting. Now, I think a central concept here is that they're very communal. These are people that work together, which I think is something that's missing really in our environment. Obviously, their food is as close as you can get from being whole. Either they catch it the same day, or they forage it, they pick it, and they eat it there. There's no processing that's involved. Again, it's very important to think about the community aspect of this way of life. And I do believe that that's a big part of what also contributes to the lack of depression and anxiety. More and more, as human beings in a modern society, we are disconnected from our source. We're disconnected literally from where we get our food. Most of us don't even know where your food comes from. We're disconnected from the people that gave birth to us. We're disconnected from our family members. So all around, you can see that we just have this separation from where we come from. And, the family unit is so important. And I think that does play a big role, from cooking together, laughing together, spending time together. I think there's a lot that we can learn from this. And now, why am I sharing all of this? Because the answers to most of our health problems, I believe, do exist within observing and studying and learning from these people. And not that you have to go and live out in the bush, right? I'm not saying that, but I do think that there's some concepts and some ideas that we can pull from these individuals to become urban hunter-gatherers, right? Why can't we live in this great environment that we live in, have access to technology like the internet and our smartphones? But if we can piece out, if we can take from some of the concepts that these people live by and apply them in our lives, you would find that it doesn't have to be that complicated, that health, it does not have to be that complicated, that you just have to learn how to move well, get enough movement, get more movement, take more walks, get more steps, eat healthier food, whole food that's not processed, that's not packaged, that doesn't have any filler, that doesn't have emulsifiers, that doesn't have anything to make it creamy or snappy or crunchy. It's just actual real food. And I would argue that most of us, if we just went to that type of dietary template, that we just followed that type of movement, you would find that you don't have to science your health as much. You're just going to be healthier because of the way that we should be living. Now, again, I just wanted to share this because it was impactful for me, watching these friends of mine, the videos and the pictures and the stories that they were sharing. And I just wanted to pass that on to you. So I really do hope that you understand, what I'm trying to share here, and definitely have a great Friday and go do good things.